Hello and welcome to the New World Review, your source for everything anime and manga. Today I'm just here to talk a little bit about a series that I am particularly excited for in the upcoming summer season, which is Dr. Stone, and it officially begins airing on the 5th of July, so we're still a while away, but if you have not already heard of this property, I would like to put it on your radar now. And I'll start by giving the synopsis, which goes a little something like this. One fateful day, all of humanity was petrified by a blinding flash of light. After several millennia, high schooler Taiju awakens and finds himself lost in a world of statues. However, he's not alone. His science-loving friend Senku's been up and running for a few months, and he's got a grand plan in mind to kickstart civilization with the power of science. So I've been reading Dr. Stone for quite some time now, and seeing the previews for the anime adaptation here have me pretty pumped. Now what I'll say from the outset is that this series is pretty much just pure fun. It doesn't have too many overly serious plot elements to it. In fact, if you're familiar with Shokugeki no Soma or Food Wars, whichever you prefer to say, then I'd very much equate it to that, except instead of cooking, we're focusing on science in general. But honestly, I don't think that comparison quite does Dr. Stone justice, because when you take a step back from it, you realize that its scope is just so massive, as its characters are charged with the mission of restoring an entire human history's worth of technological advances, and they have to do so from a literal stone age. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it has a feeling of progress that Food Wars is very much lacking. You know, every innovation opens up a door for 10 other future innovations, and at certain points in the series you'll look back on the beginning and just go, we've been on an incredible journey, and some of the things that they make in the series are guaranteed to blow your mind on a regular basis, which really is the wonder of science, I guess. Now during my schooling period, I was one of those kids who didn't really pay much attention during any form of science except for biology, although admittedly only because my teacher was she was pretty hot. So I wasn't sure how much interest I'd have in Dr. Stone before picking it up, and if any of you are in a similar position, let me just tell you that this series showcases science in such a brilliant and fanciful manner, but still maintaining a very solid grounding, and even makes things as simple as possible for the reader to understand whilst not talking down to them. And that's a problem I thought I would initially have with its protagonist, Senku. He is the scientific genius slash time capsule that makes the entire series work, and reading the first couple of chapters, I was very afraid that he was going to be kind of like your standard arrogant genius stick. But despite his frankly absurd intelligence, the series does an incredible job of making him relatable, approachable, and very easy to root for. And interestingly, in the anime adaptation, he's going to be voiced by Yusuke Kobayashi, who is probably best known for performing Subaru from Re:Zero, and I associate his voice very strongly with that character, so it's going to be really interesting to hear him play such a radically different role. And speaking of radically different roles, Dr. Stone also features a pretty incredible supporting cast, all of whom have their own particular skills that greatly assist the mission of restoring science to the Stone World. Many of whom aren't even featured in the trailers, but once again I'll draw the Food Wars comparison by stating that it really is an ensemble series, and the auxiliary characters are a major part of what makes it so much fun to read, and I'm sure to watch as well. Although if I had one negative that should probably be flagged before watching, it's that many of the characters in my opinion can be a bit tropey. Like each of them will have strong core ideas or beliefs, but if you're looking for anything with a bit more depth or subtlety, you won't find that in Dr. Stone, because after spending about a minute with each character, you'll know what they're about instantly, and with a few notable exceptions, they won't be changing. I'd also argue that it isn't necessarily a bad thing though, because these tropey and archetypal characters do really allow the core theme of the show to shine by acting as a simplistic juxtaposition. Some of the science can already be complicated enough as it is, so I think having simple characters really helps in regards to inviting the audience into a topic that by and large would generally bore and confuse them. Not only that, but their energy makes whatever science they're exploring at the time just so much fun to learn about, and even though I've probably retained a minuscule amount of what has actually been taught in the series, it does at least give you the illusion of feeling smarter afterwards. Now if anything, I'd say that Dr. Stone is going to be an even more incredible experience to watch, because as much as I love the manga, there are periods of huge sciencey exposition that I think will really benefit from an animated medium with some moving diagrams and a wonderful vocal performance to go along with them. Now with all of this in mind, the only way I think the show could really fail is if it is handed over to a poor production company, and Dr. Stone has been put in the hands of TMS Entertainment. And if you're not familiar with them, they are one of the oldest anime studios in existence, having produced some incredible classics such as Akira and Lupin III. But moving into the more modern era, they do have some experience in long-running shonen, having produced D. Gray Man, which was pretty great for its time, and even more recently, Megalobox. So I'm not particularly worried about Dr. Stone from an animation perspective at all, and everything we've seen in the previews so far look wonderfully schmick. And now I suppose I should be careful not to overrate the series too much, and if you spend any amount of time looking up Dr. Stone on the internet at all, you'll probably come across a lot of talk about the potential of Dr. Stone to become one of the new age big three. I mean, if such a thing really exists anymore. It's more like the big one now. Now, I love this series, but I really don't quite know about that. It's a pretty big call to make, but I might not be able to see it that way because of how unconventional Dr. Stone is for a shonen series. I mean, the undisputed champions of shonen have always been battle manga, and that is not Dr. Stone. If you're looking for an action-focused series, this isn't really going to do it for you. So I don't know if that has put a glass ceiling on Dr. Stone, but it does still have potential. I also have to acknowledge that we're barely over 100 chapters into it, and thinking back on where world-changing series like One Piece were at 100 chapters in, I probably wouldn't have gone so far as to label it a future member of the Big Three either. I mean, it was a fantastic story and all, but One Piece had an awfully long way to go to reach its full potential, and it's arguably still on its journey over 2 decades in. And that could be Dr. Stone, you know? When you're trying to condense more or less the entirety of human technological innovation into a singular experience, you've got a lot to play with and a near infinite amount of directions that the series could be taken. And I mean, who's to say that it would simply stop when or if humanity is restored? Why not keep pushing science beyond what we know and getting into some true innovation? And yes, I know I'm probably going on a wild tangent here, so let's wrap this up before I go too much further, but my overall point is that I think this series very much deserves your attention. It's fun, fresh, and I highly recommend you all check it out when it begins airing on the 5th of July. But that pretty much does it for this short rambling discussion thing on why I think you should watch Dr. Stone. If you enjoyed this video and the content this channel produces in general, then please do consider donating to the New World Review Patreon, because the support of all of you amazing people is what continues to make this channel possible. And if Patreon isn't quite your style, then please do leave this video a like, share, or subscribe, because it also helps support this channel an incredible amount. And if you'd like to join the fun at any time, then please do head over to my Discord server, where a wide array of shenaniganry takes place on a daily basis. And finally, please do comment with your thoughts on Dr. Stone. This has been the New World Review, and I'll see you next time.